Hello, and welcome back. There's something inherently unsettling about the night shift, isn't there? The world quiets down, the lights dim, and the familiar daytime spaces take on a strange, almost alien quality. You're often alone, surrounded by silence, where every creak and shadow plays tricks on your mind. But sometimes, it's not just your mind playing tricks. Tonight, we're diving into 3 allegedly true stories from people who experienced the darker side of working after sundown. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin. Story 1. The Children's Ward Walker. This story comes from a pediatric nurse named Clara, who was working a late shift in an old hospital wing scheduled for renovation. Around 2 a.m., the floor was dead silent. All the children were asleep, and Clara was catching up on paperwork at the central nursing station. Suddenly, she heard the faint, rhythmic sound of a rubber ball bouncing down the hallway. Thump, thump, thump. She froze, listening. It sounded like it was coming from the far end of the hall, near the empty playroom. She got up and walked cautiously towards the sound. As she got closer, the bouncing stopped. She peeked into the playroom. It was dark and empty, except for a single red ball sitting perfectly still in the middle of the floor. Shaking her head, she dismissed it as her tired mind playing games. She picked up the ball, placed it in the toy box, and returned to her desk. A few minutes later, it started again. Thump, thump, thump. This time, it was closer. Her heart pounded in her chest. She stood up and saw it. The red ball was bouncing on its own, coming down the hall towards her. She didn't wait to see what would happen next. She locked herself in the staff break room and didn't come out until the morning shift arrived. No one ever believed her, but Clara refused to work the night shift in that wing ever again. Story 2. The Man in the Stacks. Our second story is from a university student, Leo, who worked nights at his campus library. The job was usually a breeze, just reshelving books and making sure no one was left after closing. One particular evening, he was working in the oldest section of the library, a massive, dimly lit area with towering shelves known as the stacks. As he was putting a book away, he felt the distinct sensation of being watched. He glanced down the long, narrow aisle but saw nothing. He tried to ignore it, but the feeling grew stronger, like a pair of eyes were burning into the back of his neck. He started moving faster, wanting to finish and get out of there. That's when he heard a soft whisper from a few aisles over. It was too muffled to make out the words. "Hello, is someone there?" "We're closed," he called out, his voice echoing in the silence. No response. He cautiously walked towards the sound, his footsteps the only noise. As he rounded the corner of a shelf, he saw a dark figure standing at the far end of the aisle, partially obscured by shadows. It was a tall man, wearing what looked like an old-fashioned suit. Before Leo could say anything, the man turned his head slowly, and Leo saw that he had no face. It was just a smooth, blank surface. Leo screamed and sprinted out of the stacks, not stopping until he was back in the brightly lit main lobby. He later learned from an old campus security guard about a professor who had taken his own life in that very section of the library decades ago. Story 3. The Lost Pickup. This final story comes from a sanitation worker named Mike. His route took him through quiet suburban neighborhoods in the dead of night. It was a lonely job, but he enjoyed the peace. One night, around 3 a.m., he was on his last street. As he hopped off the truck to grab a bin, he noticed something odd. Every single house on the street had its porch light on, which was unusual. As he got closer to one bin, he noticed a small, hand-drawn note taped to the lid. It read, "Don't look at the windows. Just take the trash and go. Please." A shiver went down his spine. His curiosity piqued. He couldn't help but glance at the house's front window as he wheeled the bin to the truck. For a split second, He saw a pale face with wide, dark eyes pressed against the glass. It vanished instantly. He threw the bin's contents into the compactor, his hands trembling. As he moved to the next house, he found another note. They're watching. Don't stop. Every single bin on the street had a similar, frantic note. Terrified, Mike worked as fast as he could, avoiding looking at any windows. As he got back in the truck and drove away, he looked in his side mirror. In the window of every single house on that street, he saw the same pale face watching him leave. He never found out what was happening on that street, and he made sure to change his route the very next day. And that's all the time we have for tonight. The night shift holds a certain kind of mystery, a veil between the world we know and the things we can't explain. Thank you for joining me and listening to these chilling tales. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next descent into the unknown. Stay safe and sleep well.